the phase where meaning collapses before it reforms. There is a phase that almost no one warns you about. Not because it's rare, but because it doesn't fit into a clean narrative. It's the phase where meaning collapses, not disappears, not gets replaced, collapses. At first, it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels confusing. Things still exist. Your life still functions, but the meaning that once held everything together no longer holds. You might notice it when familiar words stop working. Purpose, passion, values, direction. You hear them. You understand them. But they don't land. They don't activate anything inside you anymore. This is unsettling, because meaning has always been your anchor. It told you why effort mattered, why struggle was justified, why sacrifices made sense. Without it, everything feels exposed. Most people mistake this phase for nihilism. They think they've stopped believing in anything. But that's not what's happening. Belief hasn't disappeared. It's been stripped of its automatic authority. Meaning collapses when it no longer aligns with lived perception. When the explanations you inherited, adopted, or built can't contain your actual experience anymore. This usually happens quietly. Not during crisis, not during loss, often during stability. When life is fine, but internally something feels hollow. You go through the motions, work, relationships, plans, and yet there's a growing sense that the language you're using to describe your life no longer matches what you're living. This creates a subtle internal split. Outwardly, things make sense. Inwardly, they don't resonate. And resonance is where meaning lives. When meaning collapses, you're left with raw experience, without interpretation, without narrative, just sensation, awareness, presence. This is deeply uncomfortable because the mind is designed to organize experience into meaning. When it can't, it panics. The instinct is to rebuild meaning immediately. New philosophies, new goals, new frameworks, anything to restore coherence. But rebuilding too quickly creates fragile structures. They look solid, but they're built on avoidance. Avoidance of not knowing, avoidance of emptiness. Here's the part that's hard to accept. This phase is not asking you to understand. It's asking you to stay. When meaning collapses, there's a moment where nothing replaces it. A gap, a neutral zone. Not despair, but absence. This absence is often mislabeled as depression. But depression is heavy. This feels flat, quiet, open. You might notice that you stop asking big questions. Not because you've answered them, but because they no longer feel urgent. What's my purpose? What should I be doing? They fade into the background. Not resolved, just irrelevant. This can be frightening, because identity has been built on having answers, on knowing where you stand. Without meaning, identity loosens. You're no longer sure how to describe yourself. The old labels feel inaccurate, the new ones don't stick. So you remain undefined. This is where many people try to perform meaning. They talk about purpose, they adopt spiritual language, they quote ideas. But internally, nothing clicks. That disconnect is not failure. It's honesty. Meaning cannot be forced back into place. It has to re-emerge from a deeper alignment. The collapse happens because perception has matured. You're seeing more clearly, and what you see doesn't support the old structures anymore. This doesn't mean those structures were wrong. They were necessary. They carried you until they couldn't. Think of meaning like scaffolding. It helps you build. But eventually, the building stands on its own. And the scaffolding comes down. When it does, the space feels empty. But it's not. It's unoccupied. This phase tests patience. Because nothing is being replaced yet. No new calling. No new clarity. Just a stripped-down relationship with experience. You begin to notice things without assigning value. Moments pass. Without needing to be meaningful, activities happen. Without needing justification. This neutrality can feel pointless. But it's actually precise. You're learning to perceive without narrative. Narratives are efficient. They compress experience. But they also limit it. When meaning collapses, compression releases. Life feels wider, less defined, harder to summarize. This is why it's difficult to talk about this phase. Language wants to conclude. This phase doesn't. Eventually, something subtle shifts. Not a revelation, not an insight. A reorientation. Meaning begins to reform, but not as a concept. As a byproduct, it arises from attention, from sustained presence, from seeing what actually holds your energy, without forcing it. The new meaning doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive as a mission statement. It shows up as quiet commitment to certain states, certain actions, certain silences. You don't say, "This is my purpose." You say, "This feels real." And that's enough. The new meaning is lighter, less dramatic, less absolute. It doesn't need to explain your entire existence. It only needs to support coherence. This is why the collapse was necessary. The old meaning wanted to define everything. The new one doesn't. You're no longer trying to make life meaningful. You're responding to what feels alive. This response is slower, more selective, less performative. And because it's quieter, it's easier to miss. This channel exists in that quiet, not to give meaning, not to interpret collapse, only to stay present, while something reorganizes itself naturally. If you're in this phase, nothing has gone wrong. Meaning hasn't left you. It's reorganizing. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to fill the gap. You don't need to explain yourself. Stay with the collapse. It's not destruction. It's clearance. And when meaning reforms, it won't feel urgent. It won't feel loud. It won't need defending. It will feel stable, unforced, quietly sufficient. Until then, observation is enough.